There's a technique I use in shuttle tatting where I hide my tails at the beginning of the work. Sometimes it's just one tail, or if you're working with threads that are knotted at the beginning, you may have two tails. In this case, I've got a red thread on my needle and I've got a green ball of thread, and I'm going to be doing a demonstration, a two-color tatting where the ring is going to be a different color than the chain, and so I would have to do a true ring in order to do that. And so I end up with two tails that I have to deal with later if I don't take care of them in the beginning. So the first thing you want to do is knot your threads or get ready to start your project, whatever it is. So tie any kind of knot that you like. I like to use a square knot because it ends up really small. So all I'm going to do is just cross the green over the red and pass it under, and then cross the red over the green and pass it through, and then just tie a little tight knot. And you don't need long tails for this because the shorter the better. They will behave better if they're a little bit short. That one might be a little long, but I can trim it if it gives me trouble. I'm going to get set up for my true ring, so I'm going to put the ball on the right hand side. That's just the way I like to do it. And I'm going to get set up for my true ring. So on a true ring, you know, you have to be working off of the needle thread. I want to hide the red, if I can, under the red thread and the green under the green thread. So I'm going to separate those two tails in opposite directions. So what's going to happen here, and the same thing with shuttle tatting, is this tail needs to follow the core thread. And in needle tatting, your core thread is on the needle. So when you pull the needle through, that core thread goes through all the stitches. And so if the tail is following the core thread, it's going to go through the stitches also. Alright, so I'm just going to get close to that knot, try to make that behave on the first stitch, and then I'm going to get ready to do my first half of the stitch. And you can see if this is shorter, it's easier to work with. The only reason I would leave it a little bit longer if I'm going to be hiding the tail a little bit further, or if I'm going to need to put some rings in, some picots in there. Alright, so let's just show you. You go your first half of your stitch, and I want that tail to follow my needle into that loop. Just tighten your stitch down and slide it tight. So if the tail bunches up right here, just tug on it. And you'll probably have to do that each time. It's going to behave a little bit better now that I've got it trapped. So I'm going to do the second half, just making sure that you can see me. Tighten that stitch down, slide it up, tug on the tail, tighten everything down. So usually I'll go probably 3 or 4 stitches or double stitches, just depending on the use of the product. If you want to hide the tail a little bit further, if you think it needs to be sturdier, you can do that. I just don't want to stop at a picot. So let me do the third double stitch here. I didn't trap it that time. Just get it in there. And so now I'm going to do a picot. So you just do your picot as normal, and this is going to be one with the needle. So it's just going to go into the picot stitch, or the double stitch that forms the picot. Just do exactly the same thing, just leave a space for your picot. Slide the picot down, and you can see that little bunching going on. Just tighten that up. So I'll usually go at least 1/2 stitch more beyond the picot, so I don't have a chance of the little fuzzy cut in working its way back into the picot. So a full stitch would be good, at the very least a 1/2 stitch. I'm just going to do a full stitch. So when I'm ready to quit hiding the tail, I just abandon it and just kind of put it into the pinch like that, and I keep going. So I'm just going to throw in a few more double stitches for this ring, so we can go ahead and close the ring. And so this can be trimmed later. I don't like to trim it on the needle because after I get the needle pulled through, I can really pull on that tail and tighten it up and trim it close. So I'm going to go ahead and close my ring. And I want to try to not trap that inside the ring, either one of them. You can pick it out with your needle if you accidentally trap it. So now we'll get set up for our chain. Okay, so I'm just going to move my ball to the left. It's just the way I like to do it. And make sure that I reverse the work. Get ready for the chain, and you do the exact same thing. I know that's going to be too long, but I'm going to try it anyway. Nope, I'm going to trim it because it's going to aggravate me. The first one you have to feed in there, as you can see. It doesn't want to behave until we've got it laying down in there. And of course, now that you're watching me, it's going to make it worse. Alright. Tighten down my first half of the double stitch. Do the second half. Trap that tail. And keep going. I much prefer this than having to thread up a needle later and trying to squeeze those stitches underneath. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if your stitches are tight. And I'm using a size 7 needle, so my stitches are a little bit tighter, and it's hard to hide the stitches later because the stitches are so tight. So I can abandon it. I've got 3 double stitches on there, and I can keep on stitching. I think I might have drifted off the camera a little bit. Alright, so now we can close our chain. Try not to grab those little tails. And I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot this time because I'm going to be reversing the work. Alright, so all I have to do now is kind of bend it. That's what I like to do. And tug on it real tight, kind of pull it out a little bit, and trim as close as you can without cutting your stitches. And when I let go and straighten this out, it should sink inside my double stitches pretty good. And I'll do the same thing with the other little tail. Might as well do it on camera. There you go. You have 2 less tails to deal with at the end of your project.